How to Spark Success podcast show. I'm your host, Liz Hamlet, and I'm a success coach, business mentor, and founder of Spark Succeed. And this is a podcast show where I have conversations with smart and savvy business owners, and we get to steal some of their success secrets. And hopefully you can apply these to your own business and career. So today I'm delighted to have a fantastic guest with me today, who is a multi-award winning founder and CEO of Paddy Scott, which is a really cool coffee brand. We can find out a bit more about that today. He is a mentor and speaker, and he's happiest on two wheels and creating little cups of ambition. So I'm pleased to welcome Scott Russell. How are you, Scott?
Yeah, Liz, I'm very well. I've had so many introductions. I think that was one of the best. So it's always good to get off to a good start. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm happy to follow you around to your events and do the intro.
No worries at all. Maybe we can work together. That'd be
definitely.
So, no, thank you very much for that.
So Scott, so I've know a bit about you, but it'd be really good for the listeners if you could tell us a bit about Paddy Scott and about your journey, how you got to what you're doing today.
Yeah, and of course. Well, Paddy Scott is a business that I'm incredibly proud of. It really is a business that is a drive for change, and it's embedded in doing really, really great, cool stuff around the world. So it's predominantly it's a for-profit business that reinvests that profit into the growing communities that we work with around the world. So we build schools, we build infrastructure projects, we work with food programs. So we do some really, really cool stuff. We're based here in the UK, but our reach is international. But Paddy Scott's is my fifth company. So I built and sold four prior to Paddy Scott's. Yeah. So Paddy Scott's was one of my final, I'm just going to build the best business in the world with the best ethics, with the best sustainability, because I wasn't too worried about making too much money. And I had this idea that, if you do things that make you feel happy and you do things well, then the money will come. So I'm still waiting for the money to come. But on this project, we're doing some great stuff. So that was a very simple potted history. And I'm sure you can delve into more as you ask me more questions.
Yeah, and I've been listening to some of the other podcasts that you've been guesting on, doing my research, and I hear that you come from a bit of an entrepreneurial family, sort of market trade initially, and you've sort of used all of that where from a young child to sort of bring into your business. So how has that sort of affected your mindset?
It's a great question. So yeah, I'm from I'm from a family of market traders. Although my dad was a professional footballer and my mum was a window dresser and artist in the sort of late 60s, early 70s. So sort of quite dynamic parents, and my brother and I grew up attending markets with my mum and dad as we grew, and as my parents' businesses grew up, we would talk incessantly about business. And Sunday afternoons would be Sunday lunch, and we would talk about we would play Monopoly, but for real money, and we could trade chores. We learned about profit and loss, and our parents made business was a thing that we could talk about, and we could discuss, and it was never a taboo subject. If you had any questions, then you would talk. And at the time, I used to get really excited when my parents had really good days and they'd hit their commercial targets for the weekend. And I know that we'd be rewarded with a McDonald's or something, So it was really, really good days. And so James and I, my brother's an incredibly successful guy, and I think that we come from entrepreneurial stock.
Yeah, and one of the things I was really interested in is the reason I got in touch with you was I saw a post in the last couple of weeks about Ambition Academy, where you're training up, thousands, I think it was, of people during lockdown. So can you tell us a bit about that?
Sure. Well, Paddy Scott's is a coffee company. We're a coffee brand, and to make really good coffee, you have to be a barista, and you have to learn. And that journey, it can take a year, it can take 2 years, it can take 3 years. Some baristas will say that you never stop learning, because the art and the craft of making coffee isn't just part of the journey. You've got to learn about flavor profiles. You've got to learn about everything that is there when that barista makes that beautiful cup of coffee. So their journey starts at the Ambition Academy. And that's where we take young, aspiring baristas that want to make it a career, and we put them through this training program, which can last 12 weeks, it can last 2 years, depending on what level they want to go to. Prior to COVID, we built this amazing, we still have built this amazing academy where our clients can come and learn the art of making coffee. And coffee's a great thing, because if you leave school, or you if you can make coffee, you can get a job anywhere around the world. If you can cut hair, and if you can make coffee, you're always going to get a job. So you can go all around the world and you're always going to find work. And I think that we work in a university. Our HQ is at the base of a university. So what better place to have this amazing hub of ambition than in a university? And the Ambition Academy is where that journey starts. The music is pumping, the team are good, people are excited, and it's a really cool place to be.
Yeah, and I think, I really loved the ethos, having sort of looked at the website, and I know you've sort of had to sort of shift how you're delivering services in the, and delivering sort of B2C now, sort of very much in lockdown. But, I really liked that, offering those opportunities. And, it is an art, the art of coffee making, because we all know we've been for terrible places. It's a very watery coffee, or we remember going on holiday and it's amazing. And I'm really interested in your connection, because I know that you've sort of built schools and facilities for underprivileged children. Is it your coffee farm in Kenya that sort of connected to all of that?
Yeah, so it's not our farm. It's a joint venture between us and a Kenyan family called the Mutomba family. And we have a long-term lease on the farm. And as part of our contract, our contractual obligations with the family and the community is just to leave the place in a better position than it was when we inherited it. So the first thing we did is that we looked at the school where the children go, and we just run a freshwater feed from the farm all the way to the school. And we dug that by hand, a 6.5 kilometre water feed. And prior to that, Liz, the children would use jerry cans of water to sort of bring into the school in the morning, and they would walk down a pretty busy road with jerry cans of water, and it was just ridiculous. So, that was one of the first things we had to do. And then, if the children are happy, the parents are happy. If the parents are happy, productivity goes up. If productivity goes up, there's more trade that comes into the community project, and then we can start to build on that. So it's an amazing. It's taken up nearly 4 years of my life. I spend some great time in Africa and East Africa, and I've become part of the family, the Mutomba family. It's great to see mum, dad, the kids, the children, to break bread and eat and drink coffee in the farm that we're helping to build. So it is open to our members. We encourage our customers to come to the farm. We encourage people, and we have had customers turn up and look at their tree, because we have a program, an adopt a tree program, where you can have your own tree, you can pick the coffee from your tree. But the whole project behind what we do is about just doing good, and then if you do good, doing good is good for business.
Yeah, fantastic. So other part of my research is I know you're sort of really into sort of fitness and cycling and motorcycling. So a question for you, what do you think has been the biggest factor in your success?
Oh, wow, another great question. Sort of fear of failure is something that I have, this primal fear of failing anything. And even if I fail, I think that you can turn that into a positive, because you learn from that failure. So don't think failure is terminal. It's not. I think I'm a pretty driven guy. I have 4 children. I'm going to be 50 in February next year. So, just keeping fit, keeping healthy, keeping, tone is really important for me. But I think I've been around the block a few years, my 30th year in business. You learn a lot. So I come through the original 92 recessions. I come through the financial recessions in 2008. I've now come through a pandemic. So I'm a pretty hardy chap now. I've learned to duck and dive. So there are many things that I can talk to you about that are a driver for success. I'm not, I have no exams. I left school when I was 16. So I certainly don't lean on my academic achievement as a basis for me to build on that.
I'm quite interested in how that fear, because that fear of failure can go two ways. It can either drive us towards sort of perfectionism, or it can sort of drive us to sort of be very open to failures and see those as learning. How has it sort of influenced you in how you do business?
How has it influenced me? Well, I don't want to let people down, and that's a really important thing for me. So if we take on board a project and I put my name to a project, then I'm going to make sure that project is delivered. So I think for me, I put a lot of pressure under myself. I put a lot of pressure on my team to deliver that as well. But I think the team that I work with now, you know, the likes of Zoe Hill, Jonathan Reed, my management team, Chrissy Parr, they're brilliant, Liz, and they're much better than me. I mean, they do a better job than me. And my job is to find those people, to nurture those people, to bring those people on. And the minute they're better than me, you let them go, let them run, let them manage the business. And there's no ego there. I've got an ego the size of a bus, but when it comes to working with people that are much better than me, I'm the first one to admit it. So I think a lot of entrepreneurs try to keep everything themselves. They just grab hold of everything, and they have this primal fear of letting go. What I've learned is that you must let go. You must let go.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, because you know that thing about sort of recruiting people that are better than you, that are going to ask the good questions and sort of really stump you. That's when you're going to grow the business. And you know, the perils of sort of micromanaging and trying to manage people that know more than you in those areas. So yeah, totally agree. On a sort of daily or weekly basis, what would you say are some of your success habits that really help you keep going and sort of, you know, be productive in business?
So again, good question. I work as I think called a Pomodoro system, where I start the day with 5 tasks that I must achieve, and I give myself a time scale to those tasks. So a Pomodoro is Italian for tomato, and each tomato is a section of 20 minutes. So the maximum I can spend on a task is an hour and a half. And after that, the task is too big to complete in that day. And I'll list the 5 most important things. And at the end of that, I'll score myself. How's my day been? Have I achieved a lot? Have I achieved what I've set out to do? And if I work really well and I finish my day at 3 o'clock, my day's finished at 3 o'clock, I will try to turn my phone off. I will try not to look at my social feeds. I'll try not to engage with the team. So I think having a clear definition of what you want to achieve every day is really key for me. Secondly, entrepreneurs tend to be procrastinators. We tend to go off on flights of fancy, you know, and you don't consider what is your task for the day. So I think, you know, a razor sharp, you know, understanding what I need to achieve every day is important for me. And once I've achieved it, then move on. And I work with some really cool people. So we have a building platform where you build in new action. So a business is really simple. You define what you are. You define what you want to be famous for. And that definition is not normally, it's hard to get to that defining point, that point. It's hard to actually define. We talk about the elevator pitch, but if you ask most entrepreneurs to describe their business, they go off on this wonderful tangent and they don't really stick. They don't define what they do. And when you challenge successful people to actually define what you do, that's a tough gig. And you've got to be open, you've got to be honest, you've got to be forgiving. But once you define what you want to be good at, then you action that, and then you then roll through. So we have this program that I work with people on, and it tends to work as long as you are honest with me.
Yeah, exactly. And I know you sort of do mentoring as well, so I'm sure all of that is rubbing off on your mentees.
Sure.
So you've talked about sort of building and selling a number of businesses. So in your sort of life as an entrepreneur, what do you think sort of been one of the biggest challenges that you've had to overcome to sort of get where you are today?
It's a great one, actually. I think sort of imposter syndrome has always been a big thing for me. I sold my first company when I was 24. So I founded the business when I was 19. I sold the business when I was 24. And this was a business that was bought by GE Capital, at the time, one of the biggest companies in the world by market capitalization. And this went on to become a hugely successful heating engineering business. It was a national plumbing company. And I was one of 5 partners that created this business. But at 24, you don't expect a big check and you don't know quite what to do with it. you do. You buy a Porsche car, you buy a big house, and you realise, wow, I've got no tax planning. What am I going to do with that? And then you start to believe your own hype. You start to think that you can walk on water. And then I realised pretty quickly that I needed to reinvest into another company. So at the age of 25, I invested into another company, which then went on to be bought by the Australian government-owned telco, Telstra, and then I built 3 more businesses on top of that. So it's basically it's being focused, it's being not going off any flights of fancy, not jumping on my motorbike and traveling around the world. I can do that now. If I want to do that now, I can do that. But at the time, I couldn't do that.
Tempting. At the moment.
It is tempting. it is tempting.
Definitely. So sort of reflecting back over your sort of entrepreneurial life, if you could sort of start it all over again, what would you do differently, if anything?
Nothing at all. Nothing at all. There are businesses that I've had that I failed at, which is really important. We had a recruitment company that was a disaster. I didn't realise there's a reason why recruitment companies charge what they do, because there's a massive infrastructure at the back of what they do. I've also had an engineering business, which I knew nothing about engineering, but I thought I could apply a theory of design, build, and action, and didn't work. There's nuts and bolts that you have to consider, which I didn't consider. So that was a failure. So I've had failures as well as successes, and I think that people. I know it sounds like a cliche, but you do learn more from your failures than you do your successes. Your successes are great. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing better than having a 7-figure check being dropped on your desk and saying, what I'm going to do now. But you soon spend that money.
Yeah, on cars, motorbikes.
Cars. Yeah. 4 children, private schools, you name it. It's really expensive.
It goes quick.
It goes very fast, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And that, that's one of the things I talk about when people are looking to sort of move from that sort of employee to entrepreneur position, setting up their own business, is to sort of actually actively go into the failures as learning and not to be afraid of them, and sort of to take some risks, calculated risks. And it sounds like you've been open to sort of taking those risks throughout your entrepreneur life and business life. You wouldn't have got where you are today in terms of sort of those businesses without some sort of calculated risk. I mean, what is your approach to risk in business?
I'm adverse to risk. I'm adverse to borrowing. I still don't quite understand the dark art of raising money to make money. All of my businesses have been founded through working cash flow and creating profit from selling an item, reinvesting that profit. So it's an age-old system that my parents taught me on that dinner table while we played Monopoly. Don't borrow any money. Build it on your profit. So I still chuckle and I smile when I see young entrepreneurs doing this, because we've raised £1 million or 100 grand. And I'm thinking, all you've done is put yourself under pressure, because that's debt. That's either debt or an equity sort of split, and there's a coupon to pay on that money, and there's pressure on you now to perform. And if you don't perform, there's normally a ratchet to release more equity or take on more debt. And I don't think really entrepreneurs understand what that is. They just, we've raised this money, but that's when the real problems start. That's when the real challenges start. And you need big, broad shoulders if you're going to raise that sort of money. So yeah, it's. But I'm sure, don't get me wrong, there are many, many people far, far more successful than I've ever been that have raised huge amounts of money and built massive businesses, and I'm in awe of them. But it just doesn't work in my microcosm of my business life.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And one of the things I'm quite interested with you about is your position as a mentor. I'm quite interested to hear from you. Who have been those mentors, and what have you learned from them in your career?
Well, I've never had a mentor. I've always flown by the seat of my pants, but I've always worked with some amazing people. And I think what it is, Liz, is that I've always been the sort of founder that isn't scared to stand up on the camera. So I've been the first one to be interviewed on TV, or to stand up and be interviewed by the trade press. Or if we've had a bad experience, we had 18 million customers using our services when we were working with the NHS. And sometimes you get it wrong, the recordings don't work, and then the press are hounding you, the TV are hounding you. So I'm quite happy to stand up and put my hands up and say, look, guys, we didn't get it right on this occasion, and this is the reason why. So I think what's happened over the sort of the years, I've always been the front man, but really I haven't been doing the hard work. It's my colleagues that have been doing some amazing work. You know, your Nigel Butchers, your Dean Raymonds, you know, your Craig Hughes. These are the guys that were actually the real stalwarts, but I took all the credit. And I'm not ashamed to say that, but yeah. So it's not all it's not all just pomp and ceremony. It's working with great people.
Yeah, and you know,
don't get me wrong. Good people attract good people. So you can't, you know, unless you're an ethically based business, unless you believe in what you're doing, unless you are honest with your team and you genuinely believe in what you're doing, and you push the hard yards, you know, you will attract good people. And people, I was interviewed once, and they said to me, Scott, how comes everybody I meet at Paddy Scott are happy, you know, energetic, ambition fueled? And I said, because I only employ happy, energetic, you know, infused people. Yeah. If you don't have that tick box, then you're not going to work with me. Yeah. There are some brilliant people, there's some brilliant companies you can go and work for, but if you don't have those base traits, then you're not going to work in my team. And I think once you're true to that and you stick to that, then you attract good people.
Yeah, and you know, I used to do a lot of recruitment myself when I was in my corporate role, and I always would prefer to recruit people who've got the right attitude versus the sort of technical skills, because you know, you can't train in the attitude, you know, but you can train in the technical skills. It's exactly what you're doing with your academy, and I'm sure you're sort of in-house training as well. And it obviously shines through. You know, if people have commented on that from outside of the business, you know, that's a real sort of testament to you and the sort of senior management team that you are creating somewhere that's fun, and people, you know, people will give more to businesses that they feel committed to, basically.
Yeah, I think so. And I think sort of, you know, your reputation is really important, but your reputation is not what you say, it's what other people say about you. So, you know, it's, you know, we can put, not myself, but, you know, our team can put something onto social media, and social media is pretty honest. It's, you know, it's an honest reflection of how people are feeling. You know, I can stand in the street and give you a big smile with a clipboard and say, what do you think of my services? Come on, what do I think of my services? Give me a 10. Come on, give me a 10. And I can probably cajole you into giving me a 10. I can't do that on social media.
Yeah. You're
going to sit there and you're going to write exactly what you think about us. So, you know, it's really important that everybody that we work with has the same attitude. And so, you know, I'm a great believer in, you know, you've just got to give that, all. And we have a term that says, you know, we hire for attitude and we train for skill. And I think that's really important. So your attitude is the number one thing. And there are many times that I've interviewed someone, haven't even looked at their CV, not interested about their CV. You know, I just want to talk to that person. I want to understand that person. And another little trick for you as well. If I'm employing a senior manager or someone really high up for a big position, I'll always have that last meeting in a restaurant, cafe, or bar, and I'll always gauge that person on how they treat the waiter or waitress. I'll always do that. And if they can't make eye contact, if they're not respectful of a waiter or waitress that's working incredibly hard to deliver that food, that's a real big black mark for me. So if I ever invite you to lunch, make sure that you look after the waiter or waitress.
Well, I've been a waitress, so yes, I'm always polite to stuff. But yeah, that's exactly, we used to do that when we invited people in for an interview. The person that would, the receptionist and the person that would go and take them to the interview room, always make sure we get feedback from them. So yeah, that is a key tip. So thinking about all the gems of knowledge that people have sort of spread onto you from, you know, about business, what has been the best piece of advice that you've received about sort of success in business?
Well, loads of stuff. I mean, never give up. Just keep on, and know when to give up. That's really important. So it's a bit of, you know, a bit of an oxymoron there, but you know, so many people throw the towel in too early. And I think that, you know, there is a time to throw that towel in, but believe me, it's not as early as most people throw it. Have a product that your mum understands. You know, it's a simple one. If your mum understands what you do, then the consumers will understand what you do. If you have to explain what you do all the time and they just can't get it, it's just another level barrier that people have to. I sell coffee, we fuel ambition. It's really simple stuff.
Yeah.
We hydrate when mass people communicate. So it's really simple stuff. If I was selling microorganisms, that whatever, I don't think I'd be particularly good at that.
And we've all got that one friend that when someone says, well, what does so-and-so do? You're like,
oh my God.
I'm thinking like banking. And they're like, I'm not in banking.
Do I have to sit next to them? Do I have to sit next to them at the dinner party? Really?
I want to introduce them.
Can't I be moved?
Oh, exactly. So I've still got friends that I get there what they do wrong.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. So where's the sort of best place for people to go to if they want to find out a bit more about what you do, about Paddy and Scott's?
Okay, so again, Paddy and Scott's is a craft coffee brand. So we're all about the experience of coffee right from the crop to cup. So you could just Google us. I mean, we'll pop up pretty quickly. We've got a really cool YouTube channel. I forget. I always get this wrong, but I think we're up to about 150 million watch minutes on our YouTube channel. And we've got some amazing interaction with our baristas and our social teams around the world, and that's really cool stuff. So it's always good to try and find us on YouTube, and we've got some really amazing rising stars coming through the ranks. We've got Dave, our head of coffee. We've got Chloe, our young, trendy, cool barista. We've got some really cool characters coming through the channels now. I think also, you can see us on the high street. We produce about 60,000 cups of coffee per day. Wow. So we work with the likes of Marriott International. We work with, loads of businesses around the UK. Green King Pubs. So we work with the Metropolitan Pub Company, Virgin Atlantic. Yeah. So there's some really amazing brands that we work with. And we also produce white label coffee as well. So anywhere where mass people, get together is where we sell coffee, which meant during COVID, we were massively hit with sort of 95% of our revenue ceasing overnight. So that was a real challenge for us initially.
Yeah, definitely. And, hopefully things starting to open up gradually and, people being able to get out and about more. So, hopefully you'll see an impact of that starting to come in. Well, that has been really interesting. I'll make sure I include all the links in the show notes and I'll tag you as well. So if people want to connect with you on LinkedIn, they can do. But thank you so much for sharing all your business secrets.
Yeah, hey Liz, it's been an absolute pleasure, and good luck with all your podcasts and all the great stuff that you're doing as well. So well done, you.
Thanks so much, Scott. And for the listeners joining me today, join me for the next episode where I'll be joined by Eric Thomas from the US, who suffered a spinal cord injury that paralysed him from the neck down, but he's gone on to be a relentless advocate for people with disabilities. He's an owner of a graphic design business, a hip-hop artist, an ambassador for the D-Man Foundation, and also founder of the Inspire brand. So if you're not inspired by that, I don't know what you will be. So wow. Join me for that. He's going to be fantastic. And Scott, just want to thank you again for joining me and wishing you all the best for business coming out of lockdown.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. You take care. Cheerio.
Take care. Bye.